Hello everybody and welcome to the Quilters Apothecary. Today we are doing a tutorial on how to utilize the Mystical V ruler from Quilters Apothecary to do a basic border treatment. The Mystical V ruler is an incredibly versatile ruler. I use it for a lot of different things. I use it for some ditch work. I use it for 45-degree angles on occasion. Right now I'm just going to show you a very easy border treatment. You're going to need your Mystical V ruler, of course. And also, I am going to start off this tutorial by first marking it out before we actually quilt it out. And that way you'll at least get the idea of where we're headed with this. And also it will show you some of the versatility and different ways you can utilize the ruler before we actually start quilting. So let's get started. Okay, now when we start utilizing the Mystical V for this particular border treatment, the one thing to remember is that the quilt you would have loaded, before you loaded, you would have folded in half all four sides and located the center and either put a chalk mark or a pin so that you would know where the middle is, because remember, with most of my borders I'm always working from the corner in towards the center, and that way I don't have to do any math or any heavy thinking. I can just focus on my design work on the quilt. So again, remember, fold in quarters, mark it, and then load your quilt. As you look down here, what you see is I actually have a quarter of the top of a quilt, and I can do that because it's going to be repeated from the corner in to the center just like we have it drawn, but also when that's done, then you would just go over to your other side of the corner and then work your way in the opposite way. And so you're always working from corner in toward the center. So here we have our border. I am going to go ahead, and the very first thing I'm going to do is to put a 45-degree miter right in the corner, which I'd already done, and I am using one of the Quilters Apothecary piecing and cutting rulers, but I like to use that little guy for when I'm doing marking, and it will also come in handy in a few minutes here. And then also I want you to look over towards the center, and let's put a pretend center mark. So let's say this was the dividing line for the center mark. And what I like about this ruler is, again, it has these straight lines, so I can line it right up and right there. That way I know I have a perfectly squared vertical line, and that is going to signify the center of my quilt when I come in. Okay, so now I'm going to hop over to the side. Now those can be all of the marks that you put in if you're working on a long arm machine, and that is all the registration lines you would need. You could actually start locking your thread and actually starting with the quilting design. Again, what I would rather do this time, especially for the tutorials, I'm going to draw it out first so you get the idea of where I'm headed with this. So I'm going to start in the corner. Now again, this particular ruler has a 1/4 inch slot where it can rest down here at the bottom, and then a 1/4 inch slot where it will rest up at the top. So I'm going to put my pencil right there on the corner. I'm going to make sure we have these registration lines, that my registration line, my bottom one, so that would be 5 inches, goes right to the seam between the border and the body of the quilt. I'm going to go up. That's automatically going to stop me. Now, when I'm doing this part of the border, what I like to do is I will go up, down, and back 3 times. Why? Because I actually like a little bit of a thicker line, because this is going to be my main line when I start doing the design work on this particular border treatment. Okay, so now, again, like I said, up, down, back, I stop there. My ruler, or my hopping foot or pen, is nested right into this groove of the ruler. Now very simply, so I get a perfect V, I shift my ruler around, which is why we have this funny shape right here at the top of the ruler. Shift it around. It's made for the 1/4 inch feet on any of the long arm, mid arm machines, as long as you have a 1/4 inch ruler foot on. And then I'm going to simply slide down. Now again, that's going to nest right where that seam is, as long as you have the line right on the seam if it's a 1/4 inch foot. I am then again going to shift my ruler, bring it around. I've got that perfect spot. I'm going to line that line up with the seam line, and then I'm going to go up and repeat the same process all the way over with my machine or marking tool. And again, I tell you what, I find that I do like to mark things out first, just to make sure that I have the right idea for whatever design I'm going to be working with. So don't be shy about that. Okay, so I'm going to go up, stop, And again, 2, 3. Each time that's going to thicken that line. It's also going to make that border pop. That's why I like a nice thick line for the main design portions. Plus, a lot of you already know that I do a lot of relief quilting, which means I'm going to put some tiny work in the midst of this. And with that thicker line, it's going to keep it from looking just a little bit stagnant. Now, we are coming up to the center. Here we have the center chalk line. If I slide my ruler, what I'm going to see is that I am going to come right to here, stop, shift, and then I would come down so I only have a partial. Now instead of doing that, what I think I'm going to do is I'll pick a spot here in this center line, and what I might do is measure up with that, measure up to about 6 inches, so make it a little taller there in the center. Put that line right there. Make a chalk line here. Again, I always want my oddball to be in the center because it looks like a planned part of the design. So this one's going to be just a little bit taller to the center. Then I would stop there if I were working with my machine or marking it, and I would head over to the left side corner and I would work my way drawing that in. And then when I get to the center, that's going to be perfectly balanced. And again, my oddball is going to be in the center. So now let's talk about what we're going to put in the midst of this to doctor it up a little bit more. Okay, so now we're going to head back over to the left hand from the free side corner of the quilt, and we're going to come down here. I'm going to take my ruler, and I actually went ahead and marked that, but I'm going to take my ruler, slide it right over in the corner, make sure that my line, and again, I'm using the 5-inch line right now to start with. You could use whatever line you're going to go with, and when we do the different sizes in a second, you'll see that. I'm going to start here. Get that lined up with the seam. I'm going to come up and back because again, remember, I'm going to want a thick line. Now I have that corner done, and again, that's all the throat space I have right now while we're filming. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on this corner design. And I want my corner design to kind of stand out because corners and middles, that's where we want our fancy work to be. And on this ruler, what you're going to find is you have, of course, the center line up at the top here. And then we have where it says center line on both sides. Now the reason we have 2 center lines on both sides is because if I line this up right on the miter line, what's going to happen is wherever my foot starts, i.e. if I were to start it here nestled in, so it's right in the seam, and I've got that center line right on the miter line, then when I'm here or here, either place would work. I'm going to go to here just because that's where our initial sew line would be. I can come up and stop and then slide the ruler again, and what I'm going to get, as long as I go to the same spot here where I have that nested, is a perfect groove right here. So now I'm just starting to build that up a little bit. So now I can take that, and we also have these lines on the ruler. So I can slide that, and as long as I keep that nestled 1/4 inch foot right there and keep sliding up from my design space, I can also go ahead and I would have relocked my thread, and then I would start up and it would nestle in, and I'm counting grooves. I counted 1, 2, 3, and with a 1/4 inch foot, that's going to give me a full inch, 3/4 of an inch plus a 1/4 inch for the 1/4 inch foot. So then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to repeat the same thing. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. I've got my 1/4 inch foot, which is going to give me an extra 1/4, and that's going to go up. And so I can keep building this cornerstone out. Again, this ruler is pretty incredible because depending on how you slide it, and you'll play with it a little basically probably only once when you first use it, and then you start seeing the potential with this. So let's go back, and we're going to go ahead and quilt this and start adding stuff to this as we actually quilt it. Okay, now we're going to quilt it. I have locked threads right there in the corner of the quilt because that's where we're going to start. I'm going to slide my ruler, and again, I'm keeping my 5-inch because I'm going to 5 inches here and 5-inch mark there right on the seam. And I've got my foot nested right in that 1/4 inch rest. I'm going to go up. And again, because this is going to be my main line for the design in this border, I'm going to come back with that so I can thicken that line. And then I'm going to go back up. Because also, aside from blocking out space for my negative quilting, also that's going to be my travel line. And if I do a thick line to start off with, for design reasons, then it's going to be a little easier to keep it looking clean. So now I'm going to slide the ruler, and of course, my foot stays right in that groove. I'm right at the top. I make sure again that I line up here. So it's 1, 2, 3 with your eyes. You do the glance, and then you start moving. Okay, so now down, up. Now, if you're someone that has weak hands, our handles are wonderful for. But also, if you're someone who, like me, has heavy arthritis and at times you have hard days, the one thing that I do want to mention very quickly is if you are having at all any hard time using any ruler and keeping it stable, rather than putting the sandpaper tabs on the back, what I would do is spray it with something like 505 or Pam spray, i.e. Pam Clark's spray, just as a gentle water-soluble adhesive, and that will keep it in place as you work. Now I'm going to slide the ruler again over, and we're going to continue on. Again, I slid the ruler, I'm going to line these up, and once you do it once or twice, you're going to start sliding through this very quickly. And I'm going to do 3 times. 1, goes right up and rests in there, back, and up. And remember, this line is going to get thicker anyways as we travel it back when we put our filler triangles, smaller ones, on the inside. I'm going to now slide the ruler, put that right in there, keep it right on the line, make sure to check my seam line, down, up, down, slide my ruler, line up the other side, everything's in line, up, down, and then up one more time. Again, I travel in 3s so that I can continue forward. I would travel in 2s if I wanted to go back. Slide the ruler again, keep it at the top, slide over. Again, make sure that my 2 5-inch lines are lined up right on the seam, and that's going to give me perfect V's every time, even when I go small. Come back. And now we're towards the center of the quilt. We're at the center of the quilt, so now I'm actually just going to use my ruler very simply as a ditch ruler. Now the angle is going to be different, and that's why I always chalk this center one, even if I had quilted this without the other chalk. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to slide right up there. Stop, slide, make sure that's lined up so I get a nice straight line. Back. Slide, come back. Go back up. Go back up. And this is where I can make decisions, i.e. do I go to the other corner now and work my way into the center, or do I just focus on this quarter of the quilt and get this part done? And that's where you get to make all your wonderful decisions. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you a couple different options as we're working with this. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my ruler here that has these lines. You can use any flat ruler that you would use to mark with to do this, because we're going to do a little bit of marking. And then you're going to grab your chalk. So I'm going to want to do a few registration lines. In the valleys, I'm going to want a straight vertical line. Also, dividing these triangles themselves, I'm going to want, or the V shape, I'm going to want another line right up into the tip. So I'm just going to start here, line up my ruler, make sure that this is lined up right in the seam, get a straight line there, slide the ruler again, make sure that this has got a straight line on the seam, and then I'm going to go up into that inner V shape. So here it's going to be on the outer side, making sure that this line is nice so it's a perfectly straight vertical line. Slide the ruler. Ta-da, ta-da. Keep going all the way over to the corner. And I'm going to stop at the corner because I'm going to do something a little bit different. So now we have this set up here. And you will see in just a second why, as we head back, I'm going to use these lines that separate the V shape and also the outer V, the valley. Now I'm going to use the measurements on the side a little bit more, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red tape, which is perfect 1/4 inch, and I'm going to take that off and put it right on the back of the ruler. Remember, I always like to tape the back end of the ruler. That way you're not going to get that weird op art thing where you're not going to see the exact number. And I'm going to take that to 4 inches so that I can just slide the ruler and know exactly where I'm going. 4 inches right there. So now when I flip that over, I've got a piece of tape that goes exactly to 4 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here. Come back down. Okay, now I'm going to slide my ruler. I'm going to make sure that where it says center line on the right side of the ruler lines up with my chalk line. And then I'm also going to take this up to 4 inches. So there's 4 inches. I come down. I go up. That's going to nest me right at the top of the valley. I slide my ruler right into that foot, and then I'm going to line this up to 4 inches, and now I'm going to get a perfect diamond in the middle of that V valley. I'm going to go up and down. Again, I want a thicker line. Now I'm going to do this all the way over. So I'm going to head back up, and again, because I'm retraveling, and when I get back down to here, then I will start with the upper V. Now, that being said, let's take a second and talk about this. That's the path that I'm using. You can use any path. Now remember, not only do we have these outer portions, but what if I were to want to go in here and put one that was just about half size taller so that I'd get a double line in there? So I'd have that positive and negative quilting. This is where you get to make decisions with this ruler, and it becomes an extremely versatile tool. So since we're doing this on the fly, let's actually do it on the fly. I'm going to go up a little ways because I do want to do some positive and negative quilting. I might stop there. I will slide this ruler up. I'm 1/4 inch away right on my sew line, which is going to give me a perfect 1/2 inch, because remember 1/4 inch plus the 1/4 inch foot equals a 1/2 inch. I have my center line right there. I come back. Now I can come right up, and it's going to nest right in that foot, right on that dividing chalk line. Rest it right in there. Okay, so now we've got this sew line up here. Now on this side, remember, we're at the center line again because we're working our way back from the center. And because of this center line, this line's going to be a little bit of a different angle. So it's going to be a little wider here, but only on this one. On the way back, they'll all be the same. That'll be that 1/2 inch, except for this one. And again, what does that make it look? Planned. That's what I love about it. Okay, so now I'm going to relock that, and then I'm going to come down, up, down, and now I'm very simply going to make decisions. I'm going to either retravel this thicker line that I've made all the way back to here to do these in-between diamonds, or I can come down here and work in the middle of my diamonds to duplicate whatever type of design that I'm going to use in the middle. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to come down, and right now I'm very simply using this as a ditch ruler. I'm going to turn, go in. Now I'm going to take this ruler, and again I'm going to line it up. I've got tape now marked to the 3 inches. I'm going to slide up to the 3 inches, making sure that where it says center line, that it goes right up on that chalk line that divides the inside of the V. I'm going to go in there. Now I'm going to take that. That's going to stop me right at the center line, which is that perfect 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to slide the ruler, come back to there, make sure that my tape lines up right on the 3-inch line, and of course that's where my foot would have been nested, and make sure that that's lined up perfect both sides. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to continue back across and alternate between doing the top portion with the 4-inch and doing that double inside and then sliding in and doing that all the way back, and then I can come back and put in my fill. Well, there was our introduction to the wonderful world of the Mystical V. So I hope you all enjoyed that, and have a wonderful day. Take care of each other, and I will see you down the road very shortly with our next tutorial.